I'm so excited today. I am getting ready to record a podcast with my functional medicine physician. How cool is that? Yes. So, I've done other podcasts with McCall at Modern Thyroid Clinic. Now I'm actually going to interview today. Her name is Hillary. She's going to be with us. I'm so excited. So we're getting ready to go on here in just a minute. But I wanted to introduce this part of the podcast because this literally thyroid care has changed my life and I want to share it with the world. And so I'm excited to have Hillary join us today to share her experience. She's also a thyroid patient. She has all the experience, all the expertise, has went into functional medicine, has learned everything that she needs to learn from McCall to help you live your very best life. I know for me, thyroid care has completely changed everything that I do with my life. It's changed the way that I look. It's changed the way that I feel. It's changed everything. It's changed my outlook. And so I'm excited to bring this to you today. So tune in very soon and I will see you all inside the podcast. You are listening to the Intuitive Healing Connection, where intuitive healing connects with everyday living. Hi, my name is Gina Strole, and I am your host. I am best known as the down-to-earth energy healer that doesn't sugarcoat the truth. I walk my clients through the healing process so they can find freedom from their emotional pain, heal from their past, and find peace and joy again. If you are interested in healing your emotional past, tapping into your spiritual side to receive your own answers, finding your own clarity, and discovering your own spiritual truths, then you are in the right place. I am here to lead the way and to help you discover your own intuitive healing connection. Welcome to today's podcast. I'm so excited. I have one of my favorite people here with me. I've been able to get to know Hillary this last year or so. I don't know for sure how long it's been, but
almost a year. Yeah.
Almost a year. It has been crazy. So I'm excited to have Hillary here with us. And I'm going to let her introduce herself, and then we're just going to dive right into today's podcast because it's going to be marvelous. So,
yeah.
Well,
I'm Hillary. I'm a nurse practitioner. I work for Modern Thyroid Clinic. And one of the best experiences of my life to work for them. I have a history of hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's, and that journey just has really spurred me to try to get the word out about thyroid care and looking at it in a different way, and then just helping as many women as I can get their lives back. Men too, but primarily women. We all know women primarily struggle with this, but just helping people getting their life back after struggling with thyroid symptoms. So I'm excited to be here today and talk through kind of my experience and what I see. And yeah, so I think I'll let you take over.
Well, I'm excited to have you here because you have completely changed my life. Modern Thyroid Clinic has completely changed my life in the last year and a half. I don't even look like the same person anymore. Thank goodness, because I'm sure you remember when you first met me versus today, so many things have changed. So let's talk about your journey and getting where you are today, because the thing that I love about Modern Thyroid Clinic is that you all understand because you live it, because you're doing the same thing that we're doing. So tell me about your experience. How did you get here?
So I've always had this in the back of my mind that I was probably going to be one to struggle with thyroid symptoms. I remember probably being 16 and knowing that my mom had it, aunts, cousins, several people in my family, especially on my mom's side of the family, had hypothyroidism. And, of course, at 16, I thought, that's just probably something I'm going to deal with when I'm older. But for now, I'm living life. Well, I think back on my 20s and probably a little bit into my late teens as far as how did I feel? And I truly think I started to see symptoms probably around 20 years old. Just going through the stress of nursing school. I played college softball, so there was just a lot of demand there on my body that I think shifted so many things for me. And so probably I spent probably the first half of my 20s just like I always had this like great memory in high school and like could remember anything, and school came really naturally to me. And then I got into college and I was like, why can't I remember anything? So I think back on those times and I thought, it's just because it's a new adventure, it's stress, all those things, which I think is so common for us to think of. It's just what I'm going through right now. And while that, yes, that might be true, I think those stressors can really shift our hormones and how our body responds to that. I think I was probably 25. No, I'm sorry. 27, I'm sorry. When I kind of that's when I graduated from NP school. I had some blood work done. Right out of school, I worked for a primary care clinic in a small town around me. She did a lot of hormone replacement therapy. It wasn't this like straight PCP. We did a lot of other types of things. And that's kind of where I got introduced to hormones and decided one day I'm going to do my blood work. Well, that's kind of where my thyroid function at that time I considered fine, before I really knew, what I was getting into. But I did see that little Hashimoto's antibody number and it was low. And I think I did a few things at that time to just kind of keep it at bay, but I didn't really think too much of it for myself. Symptoms at that point just started to progress. I could start to see them. Um, but I was also going through another immense amount of stress with job transitions, working for it was just kind of a big change in my life. So once again, blamed it on all of that. Then, when I turned, let's see, I probably turned 29, 30-ish. It was like 40 pounds came on. Couldn't even think, like I was working for an orthopedic surgeon at the time, couldn't grasp anything. Like I was probably 6 months in, and every day in surgery, it just felt like this is the first time I'm seeing it because I couldn't remember anything. So brain fog, weight gain, fatigue, just trying to get as much sleep. I would come home, probably go to bed at like 7:30 as soon as I could, just so I could get more sleep. It still wasn't enough. So those were like my big major symptoms. And I know so many women struggle with those. Once again, didn't think anything of it because I wasn't really in that world anymore. I was in more of like an orthopedic type world. So kind of fast forward to when had my daughter. So I had my daughter, she's 3, almost 3.5 now. And pregnancy was really hard. And I once again thought, okay, it's just because it's the first time. I've never been pregnant before, but like the fatigue factor was horrible. And I know that's common in pregnancy anyway, but it was like I could spend 20 hours sleeping all day long the entire time. So I never really got like that second trimester little push of energy. I could have slept all day, every single day for 10 months and would have been perfectly fine. The problem is I have to make a living, right? So, once again, thyroid was not really at the forefront of my mind. I do look back on my blood work and go, oh my gosh, how do I no wonder I could have slept 20 hours a day the entire time. And 2, how do I have a good, healthy baby? It's just really by the grace of God, I think. But, I look back at my numbers and go, wow, like they were dangerously low from certain perspectives. Yeah. So then I had her. I was actually doing really well, like kind of immediate postpartum. 3, 4 months in, and it was like, wow, where did this come from? So I'd felt pretty good. It was kind of this weird period, and I don't know if it was just hormones, whatever, but it was this weird period right after I had her where I felt good, and then shift quickly happened at 3 to 4 months. And I actually put on 20 more pounds, even though I had gotten back down to like my pre-baby weight. I was back at work, couldn't even like think about medications that I'd prescribed for 6+ years now, like what they did, what they were for. It was like, what is that for? Patients' names that I had seen for 2, 3 years at that point, just couldn't come to me. And it was almost scary, almost to the point that I remember telling my husband, like, if this is how I feel at 31, what am I going to be like at 65? I can't even remember, the simplest things to do, simplest tasks to do. So it was kind of scary. And that's kind of where I went to this hormone conference. The clinic I was working for was starting to dig into a little bit more hormonal stuff, and
Yeah.
went to this conference, once again decided to get blood work, and it was like, there it is. Thyroid function was just at that, I mean, it was really actually just off, like obviously off. Luckily I had the foresight to be like, you know what, my mom takes Armor. I want to take Armor. I want to get on that immediately. So luckily I had that knowledge a little bit. And then when I didn't feel better immediately, I was like, there's got to be more to this.
Yeah.
And just really started to dig into hypothyroidism and trying to look at it in a different way, and sought out as much counsel as I could from, different types of people that were looking at thyroid from a different perspective. And then eventually just kind of got caught up with McCall, and probably harassed her just a little bit, because I just felt this huge does this need to just reach out to her like multiple times. Like it was like there was this force that wasn't keeping me from reaching out to her. So I probably harassed her just a little bit, being, I either need to open up a clinic here where I'm from, or I need to work with you, or something, like something is wrong with you. And anyway, it ended up being one of the best decisions I've ever made. So that's how I got with Modern Thyroid, but also my journey led me here too. And the things I heard, even as a clinician, I don't want anybody to ever hear. I heard them myself about, you're in medicine, you're fine. And I'm like, no, I'm not fine. I'm 32 or whatever age I was, that I can't sit here and I can't think. I'm so tired. My daughter goes to bed at 7:30. She sleeps all night. There's not a reason like that where I'm up all night that explains this amount of fatigue. So, things that I was told just really spurred me to have a different perspective for women who are going through this, to look at it from every aspect that I could, and give them their life back, because I do think overall as women, we spend a lot of time just blaming things on everything else. Like, oh, I have young kids, I have a stressful job. And while I do think those things affect how you feel, I think there can also be this driving force behind it too, that is just so important to get locked in and dialed in. So that's kind of what led me to Modern Thyroid, and why I'm so passionate about helping women just get their life back and be able to be the mom they want to be, the wife they want to be, business owner, whatever it is that they want in their life. I want them to be able to have that capacity to go and do. So that's me kind of in a nutshell. Hopefully I answered your question
Yes,
well.
you did. It's beautiful. And I love listening to you, because I went through a lot of the similar experiences, only I went through it a
Yeah.
lot longer than you did. I
Yeah.
was looking back, and I thought it was like 22 years, but I'm like you. I think I started in my late teens
Yeah.
having symptoms, but didn't realize it, because I remember I was diagnosed with Epstein-Barr virus in high school, and I was down and out for like a long time. I didn't go to
Yeah.
school for a while, and I was thinking back on that the other day, and I was like, I know, and that there was some shift, something happened in there,
Yeah.
and I'm 50 years old now, and it's just been in the last year and a half that I've discovered all of this.
Yeah.
And I'm like you, I yell it to the rooftops.
Yeah.
People start talking to me, and I went to my doctor today, and they put me on. I was like, oh my gosh, quit messing around with this, and let's get some serious care.
Exactly.
Because I don't want anyone to have to go on as long as
No.
I did and live with those symptoms.
Yeah.
And it's terrible. It really is just the most debilitating thing.
It is. And it's the thing about it is I do think the beautiful thing about where I work is that we do have that experience of living through it,
Yeah.
because it is sometimes one of the most difficult things to explain, even to just like your spouse, somebody that you live with every day, to be like, it feels like every ounce of me weighs 1,000 pounds when your thyroid is off. And for them to look at you and go, what what?
What are you talking
Like
about?
it just, for somebody, when I talk to somebody and for them to be like, everything on me feels heavy. And I'm like, stop, no, like, say no more. I know that
I
feeling,
gotcha.
maybe not exactly like you feel it, but I get a lot of those symptoms, and I like weight gain. I'm like, trust me, I know what it's like to gain 20 pounds in a month. Like, I'm not one of these that's over here going, I have no idea what that weight gain feels like. I do, and I think that's the
Mhm.
beautiful thing about modern thyroid, but I also think it's so pivotal in getting good thyroid care because there is a level of empathy that does need to go into this. And, I think that's having that experience and be able to walk through it and just be like, you know what? I may not get what you get, like what you are experiencing, but I do get it on some level, and I'm
I've been
here with
there. I get
you.
it.
Yeah, I'm here with you, and maybe not as long or as severe in some areas, but I want to hold your hand through this, and I want to get you to the other side. So, anyway, that's
I
one
love that because I
beautiful
think
place.
that's what this all is about and why we're
Yeah,
here on this. Let's talk about the difference. You've been talking about a lot of the symptoms, and I think we'll go into a little bit more of that, but
yeah,
let's talk about the difference literally between regular medicine, where
yeah,
most of us go to seek treatment
yeah.
and most of us don't find the treatment that we need there
Right.
versus functional or integrative medicine. Let's talk about the differences between the two, especially as
Yeah,
related to thyroid care, because they are very, very vastly different.
yeah. Yeah, I think one of the biggest differences is the reference ranges in which they're guiding their treatment plans off of. So it's a huge difference.
Mhm.
Um,
And
because you
and
can,
maybe talk a little more about that so that people
yeah,
understand what that means.
yeah. So when you look at reference ranges on your labs, you're going to get this really wide range of references, which is really based off of kind of sick and unhealthy people. So it's kind of an average of the people in your area. And there's really no standard lab range for thyroid levels.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big issue is that there's just no standard value. It can be, there can be 0 to 4, there can be 0 to 5. Some are even pushing it to 10, which I think my TSH was at a 6. And I'm like, if I would have waited until I was a 10, who knows where I would have been, right? So
Yes. Oh my heck.
there's
Yes.
that is the reference range value is just very wide, and you can miss patients can actually be very debilitated with symptoms within those normal ranges. And I remember early on as a PCP, like, I can't, this is where I got my start. So I have that, hey, this is where I was and this is where I am now, and how things are totally different in the way I look at thyroid. But I remember just kind of reading through and going, yeah, everything looks fine, nothing's flagged red, right? So that's just kind of the thing is that you're just so busy as a PCP trying to keep up with the 40 patients you're trying to see that day, but all the other things that you have to do. So, part of it's just our system, but also the standard of what they are looking at. So big difference is those reference ranges, I think. And you can really miss truly, like, there's this kind of I think this thought process of this is what hypothyroidism looks like, and there's a certain way it should look.
Yes.
And I think that you can still have symptoms. You can still be hypothyroid and look different, right? Like, it may not be that traditional classic
Mhm.
elevation in your TSH, low thyroid hormone. You may have conversion issues, things like that. So I think that's a big difference. I also think the treatment paradigm is very different, hugely different, actually.
Hugely
Uh,
different.
yeah, yeah. Which there's a lot of things I have a firsthand experience on, but being on T4 only treatment is one I don't have. And luckily it was, what, my mom is on Armor. I think Armor probably would work really well for me. I don't even know that I want to mess with the other option. And there was just something in my head that was like, I think that's what I should do. So I don't have that experience, but I see it a lot. And I see, these women coming in who their levels, you know, I think the other thing when you think about reference ranges is also the full panel
Yes.
is not necessarily a full panel. It's just your TSH, maybe a free T4. So looking kind of further at what's happening is also really important. So I kind of got off on a tangent there, but the full panel is so important. And when patients are on T4 only treatment, which would be like your levothyroxine or your Synthroid, their labs may look great, but they don't feel great, right? They're not using that medication usually appropriately. And I see this all the time where patients are just, they can't use that medication well and they need extra help. And so that's where those additional labs come in, but also, layering in and adding in some of that active hormone really becomes such a pivotal piece to their care. And that's the difference too between Armor and levothyroxine is that it does have some of that active hormone to where my body is not solely reliant on its ability to take that T4 and use it. I actually just have a little bit of help in that medication. So those are some of the major differences. I also think the other big difference is I do have a history of Hashimoto's. And I think regular conventional medicine really views that as just something that you have and you can't really do anything about it, or there's no options given, or if you mention something, they're like, well, you can try it, but I don't think it's going to make a difference in how you feel, right? And so, looking at it from a functional perspective on how can we help keep inflammation at a more manageable level, which is so much what Hashimoto's is driven by, is also kind of the major huge differences that I see within like conventional versus kind of a functional integrative type of approach.
Yeah. And that was my experience too. I had my thyroid removed back in 2015,
right.
Knowing what I know today. Oh my gosh, we would have went totally different route with that, but they started throwing out words like thyroid cancer and all. And my daughter actually had thyroid cancer that year. And so, but I was on T4 forever.
Yeah.
I would take the T3, or I would take the Armor. I did that a couple of times, but it was never enough. Like,
right.
And they're like, well, if you don't feel good, let's just go back to the standard protocol. So then they would, take that away and put me back on.
Yeah.
And it's just,
there's vastly different, the way the Armor works and the way that your T4 based meds, your levothyroxine, your Synthroid work, it's so different. And, thyroidectomy patients they're near and dear to my heart too. Like, I don't have that experience, but you guys, like, now you're solely dependent on this and you get
forever,
in my opinion, some of the worst treatment ever. But yeah, I mean, and knowing the differences, and I think that's the other thing is that going through school, you don't get trained on thyroid. I think I remember the one thing I remember about thyroid care is when I went to take my boards, I went to do this, like I sat in this board preparation class, and I remember the only thing I remember about thyroid is free T3. It affects your metabolism, it affects your energy. Stay away, it's kind of dangerous. Like, that is what I remember whenever I was taking my boards. And so that's what we're taught. But so then you don't have that training or that understanding that there are other medications out there that can be used in a way that are very beneficial, that are help you kind of get that physiological response back that can give you your life back too. So a lot of differences in conventional medicine.
Yeah, I even remember when I first started listening to McCall, and I found McCall totally by accident. I thought that I was being led to TikTok. I felt like I needed to get on TikTok for my business. And so I opened up a business account and started, and lo and behold, here's McCall in my feed. It had nothing to do with my business. But I started listening to her talk about T3 and I was like, I need some T3 in my life. And so I went to my regular PA and asked her to prescribe me. She's prescribed me 50 milligrams of T3. And then I'm hearing McCall tell me we need to take it twice a day. So then I started doing one in the morning and one in the afternoon. And the crazy thing is it felt fabulous for a little while.
I bet. Yeah.
I actually got a taste of like what real life felt like. But then, oh my gosh, the anxiety, it was unreal. And I remember I had taken McCall's class and I was telling her one day she was asking me, she was doing the calls where she went over your labs and was talking about, and I
Yeah.
told her what I was doing, and she said, "You're taking how much T3?" Like it was one
Yeah.
of those, like,
Yeah.
"You're doing what?"
Yeah.
We need to fix
Yeah.
that right now. Like,
Yeah.
um,
And
but they just don't know. They don't
right.
understand.
Right.
And you look at regular T3, they got 5 milligrams, is it
25
10
and
milligrams?
50.
And yeah,
Yeah, there's three doses, And hey, when I first started trying to figure out T3 for patients, it was probably very similar. Like,
uh-huh.
you're just trying to doing this job, you have to have a heart for people to try to help them. I mean, I think even though regular medicine doesn't feel like it, they don't, I think there's this stigma that people in regular medicine just don't want to help, but I also think there's just this level of just not knowing
Just not knowing.
and
I
not
agree.
understanding, right? My mom tells me the story that whenever she was talking to her first doctor, he told her, "Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I probably fell asleep during this part." Like
Yeah.
that sounds bad, but like there's just this level of just not understanding. And I think it does come across as, well, they just don't want to help. And I do think that they do. I
I
just
do
don't think
too.
they know how to.
No.
And I'm not gonna lie, I probably when I first started, it was like, yeah, let's try this. And I probably overdosed many
50s.
people and I hate admitting that, but I know a ton more now. Much better, much more training, much better training, just much more digging experience, practice, right? Like, so, but it just, even if you're like willing to help, that's a huge thing
It
too.
is
Like, even if
killing.
they're
Yeah.
willing. And I think that's hard to find. It is hard to find a clinician that's willing, and so much of it is from a lack of knowledge on T3 and how to use it, as well. So yeah, you tell that story and I'm like, I probably was that person too for a little while, and then I
Well,
kind of
but
came to the light. Yeah,
right. But I'm like
yeah,
you. I appreciated her at least
yeah,
because she was the first one who listened to me. And I said, "Look, here's what I understand.
yeah,
Here's what I think I need. Can you help me?" Because at this point, I've been without the right
yeah,
proper thyroid medication for years now.
yeah,
And I've been without a thyroid for 9 years at this point. Like, can we
yeah.
try something? I'd rather have way too much than keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, you're like, I'll just take
Something's
the
got to
risk of
change here.
whatever, right?
Yeah, like something's got to
Something's got
change.
to be
So
better
I
than
was
slow
grateful
death.
just, yeah, that she would even just listen to me for a
Right.
minute, and
Yeah.
and she was willing to try, because when she came into my life, she actually gave me hope again. She was because I
Yeah.
had been turned away by so many doctors. The doctor who took out my thyroid's like, "You know what? We're not going to care for our patients anymore. We just take them out. Now you got to go to you got to go
Right.
to your
Yeah.
regular family care doctor to get your care now." And I was like, "Are you kidding me? You guys
Yeah.
left me hanging here." Like,
Yeah. You just take this organ out and then I'm just left.
and tell me you'll be fine. People live without
Yeah.
it every day. That's what I heard. You'll be fine. People just live without it every day.
Oh
You'll
my
be
gosh.
fine. That's what they
Oh my
told me.
gosh.
Yeah, that's the story that I got. And it's like,
Oh gosh.
are you kidding? Knowing what I
Yeah.
know now, oh my heck, I would totally, I've said that a million times. Like, I would go back, but there is no going back. Here we
Right.
are.
We are.
Like,
And that's kind of where I am. I'm like, when I deal with patients, it's, you know what? We have this. Let's deal with it. Let's move forward. Forget the past. I know you've probably worked with thousands of other people, or it feels like it, but let's put one foot forward and let's get going. Like, we can get your life back. I feel very confident with every patient. I can get you where we need to be. Just through training, through knowledge of what we do. But let's I think that can hinder a lot of patients when they do get kind of caught up on the where they've been.
mhm,
And then they finally get to us, and I'm like, listen, let's put that aside. Like, let's
yeah,
move forward, because I do think it can kind of keep you from feeling good as well. And but so many women, they do have that story. They struggle far too long, 22 years, 25 years, 30 years, far too long. And I think about the life that they maybe kind of missed out on,
mhm,
and that's just a huge driver for my heart. Is if I felt at 6 months I was going to miss out on my entire daughter's life because of how I
mhm,
felt, I wanted to stop it right then. I didn't care what it took. I was going to try to figure it out, even if it meant figuring it out for myself, and eventually
yeah,
just reach a point where you need somebody else to look at it and deal with it. There was only so much I could be like, yeah, I need you to change my medicine to this. And before people started going, hang on, who's making the call here, right?
Yeah.
So, but I think about that it was I think she was 4 to 6 months when I was like, I'm just wishing her life away because I can't wait to go to bed. And there's so many women out there that have spent the last 20 years who now their kids are grown
Yep.
and they miss, they missed, not that they missed out, but I don't feel like they got to be that fully present mom that they wanted to be, or dad, right? So,
Exactly.
yeah, I mean, very appreciative of the people that helped me early on, but at least they gave me a chance, right?
Exactly.
At least, at least help me get my medicine. But just knowing and being able to help you on the other end, like there is a hope, there is change in how you can feel, and you don't have to live like this forever.
Yeah.
So,
It became very vastly, acutely, I don't even know the word. I became very aware of it. And you've been working with me, so when
yeah,
I've had a knee accident this year, I've had
yeah,
surgery, I've had all this stuff going on in the middle of, but I'm feeling fabulous. Like
yeah,
literally, even because of all that, like I have felt fabulous. And
yeah,
I remember though, I've been angry a few times. Like I just have
yeah,
to admit, because it's like I'm
and
realizing how much I missed out on life.
yeah,
But we actually just after knee surgery, I was only 3 months out of knee surgery, and we went to Croatia. And you know all of this, but
yeah,
I was walking around Croatia. I walked 113,000 steps in Croatia after having
yeah.
a
Me,
total knee
yeah,
reconstructive surgery and being a thyroid patient who hasn't felt good for years. And I
yeah,
felt fabulous while I was there. I didn't swell up. I didn't do all the things that I normally do when I travel. But I remember walking around and I looked at my husband and I said, I've missed out on so much in life.
I know.
And it
Yeah,
broke my heart. I was like,
I know.
oh my gosh, I have
Yeah,
missed out on life. And I'm like you. I yell it to the rooftops for everybody because I don't want anybody else to miss out on
no.
any more of life. We
Yeah,
deserve to feel good. We deserve to be heard as women and men
yeah,
and all of us, and we deserve to have that in our lives.
yeah.
And we deserve to be able to go walk on vacation and walk all the steps and not
For
be
sure. And enjoy
swollen
it,
and not,
right?
yeah, and
For
feel fabulous
sure.
doing it. So
And
yeah,
yeah. And I think that's kind of part of the healing process too,
yeah, it is.
is that realization of, oh my gosh, and
Yeah,
then, and okay, but you know what? That's done. That's over
it's
with, right? Like
done.
it is such a mix of emotions being
It
a
is.
thyroid patient. And it really is like the difference in my life, the difference in my
Uh-huh.
relationship with my husband, just the little things that seemed so hard are
Yes.
just not as hard.
Mhm.
Uh, and going through the hard is, I'm not going to say it's easier, but I've just learned how my body responds and what I need to do and through this whole process. And so, but I do think there is a level of healing of
Mhm.
thinking back on your life and not that we need to disregard our past at all, but
No,
just, you know what, we're here now, we're going to move forward. And there is, I think there's times where patients are like, I just realized how much I missed out on. And
yeah.
it's so sad. I mean, it's really sad that we have to, we have like some, we feel like we have to do that, but that
Mhm.
all we can do is just get through the day.
Yeah.
And I think your children feed off of that. And I think,
Do.
it's just, it affects everything, right? And not just you, but it affects your kids, your spouse. And so, yeah, I shout it to everybody. I'm like, go check your thyroid. Are you sure it's not your thyroid? Can you send me your labs, please? I would love to look at these and give you my opinion on if you should or shouldn't have this checked out in a different way, or at least consider looking at it, options for treatment because, man, there's so many women that struggle with it
Yeah.
that just chalk it up to something else. And I think they can spend years missing out. So,
I
yeah,
absolutely agree. My daughter is with McCall. My son
yeah,
actually sees you. Because of all this, I realize my kids all have
yeah,
issues too. 3 out of my 4 kids have thyroid issues.
yeah,
Like it's insane. And my daughter actually called me the other day, and it was one of the most healing moments in my life because she called me and she said, Mom, how did you raise all of us kids and feel like shit? This is what she's
yeah,
like, because I'm starting to feel better, and I'm realizing you spent our whole
I
lives feeling
know.
this way. And it was one of the most healing moments for me, because I looked at it, I said, honey, I did the best I could,
Right.
because
Yeah.
I didn't have a choice.
Right. Right.
Like,
You don't
I
have a
brought
choice,
these kids,
right?
but I'm like you. How did we have 4 amazing pregnancies? How did I bring
I
these kids
know.
into the world? Knowing what I know now, I'm like,
Yeah.
what a miracle. What a
Yeah.
miracle. Because my body was so screwed up.
It
Like,
was. Yeah.
and it was working overtime to
It
do what it
was.
needed to do. Like, no wonder I was so tired. It was trying so hard,
I know.
but it
Yeah.
just wasn't enough. Like,
Yeah.
but there again. So what do we tell women? Because I hear this daily. I work with women too.
Yeah.
I love, and I work more on the mental, emotional, spiritual side of all things. But here's what I'm hearing now. And it's really interesting, because a lot of my clients all have thyroid issues as well. So it's very interesting how this all
Yeah.
works out. And they're struggling to get their emotional and mental health back together. So how do you think those all work together? Because, when we're not
Yeah.
feeling well, we've got all these other components over on the side that are all messed up as well. And I don't think
Yeah.
sometimes we realize that it's the big picture. Like,
Right. So I think for me, the biggest realization was that I didn't have to do what the culture says I needed to do. I think there's the huge cultural, we just have to constantly be going and pushing through, and there's no time to whine or cry or whatever. Like, you just got to keep going. You got to get your kids involved. Like, I think for me, the biggest thing was realizing I am not, um, I, I have an expiration date. Like, I am not immortal.
yeah,
I, and if I need to do that, I need to do that. And I think, and not really listening to kind of what society says I should be doing, as far as like pushing myself with workouts, pushing myself to just keep going through like going through everything. And I was in a period of a very stressful event of life, and it really just dawned on me that I've got to start to focus on myself. That saying of, if your cup is empty, you can't serve others, right? Like, if you're empty, you can't help others. If you're not helping yourself, it's that oxygen mask, right? Like, if you
yep,
can't breathe, you can't help your kid breathe, right? With the oxygen mask. So for me, it was a huge realization of, I can't put myself on the back burner. And it's not out of a place of selfishness. It's actually a place of,
love,
I want to help my family thrive. I have to do the things that I need to do. And that looks different for everybody. For me, I'm 100% an introvert. And I quickly realized I have to figure out how to find those moments where I just relax my mind by myself.
yep,
I fill my cup in whatever way I need to do it. And I got bombarded from, a bunch of people that I'm friends with, and why aren't you going to this? Why aren't we doing this? Like, just realizing I can't be involved in everything. I can't constantly be that source that helps everybody, right? Because then the ones that I do need to help get the worst part of me.
yep,
And that's my family. And I think for me, it was just that huge realization of, they come first. I need to do the things I do that put them first, and realize that those things that are extra will be there when I feel better. Um, but I also think, just not giving up either. Just not
yeah,
feeling like there's no hope for any of this, because there really is. And just keep seeking people out that can help, that can help you. Like, that's one thing I did, was I just still didn't feel good, and I just kept trying to find answers. Just trying to find somebody that would help me, because I reached a point where I was like, I've reached my limitation. I need other people to help me. And so just, hey, you know what? If you need to rest, rest. If you can't go work out 7 days a week, there's nothing wrong with you. In fact, if you can't even
in
do two
fact,
days
you
a week,
shouldn't.
there's nothing, yeah, exactly, right. Like, we really shouldn't, but there's nothing wrong with you if you don't have the energy to go work out 2 days a week, right? Like, I think we just get so bombarded with what perfection should be. And
Mhm.
I think growing up as a perfectionist and having that kind of innately in me and wanting to always do my best, it was a huge learning moment for me to realize I'm not perfect. I can't live perfectly.
And it's
In
okay.
fact, if I try, it actually causes me to feel worse.
Mhm.
And just trying to figure out like where does my priority lie in trying to heal? What are the things I can do? Is that eating better? Is that prioritizing sleep? Resting when I actually do need to rest, and telling my husband, listen, I have to rest. I have to figure out how to do these things for myself. Otherwise, you suffer, my daughter suffers, things like that. So I think it's kind of pushing aside those cultural stigmas of
I
what we
agree.
should we should be doing as moms, as wives, as women, and figuring out where our priorities lie and what are things that we can do that are sustainable for the rest of my life, not just for the right now. Like what can I do with my diet that I can take with me for the next 65 years or however many long years I have left, right? What are things I can do in my lifestyle that are going to benefit me for the rest of my life rather than kind of detriment me? And then what's my reasoning behind those? Who am I trying to help with those? And really it just boiled down to my family was the one that was suffering the most. And I don't get those moments back. I don't get another chance to raise my daughter. I have 18 years to raise her, and then she flies the coop, right?
Yep.
And I want those 18 years to be as positive, as enriching, and I want her to know that her mom was present in all of them. So that's really what it was for me. It was figuring out what my priority was, realizing, hey, I'm not perfect. Hey, I'm not immoral. I I need the rest. I've got to figure out what that looks like for me. But then also just that it's that balance of just not stopping to find an answer, to figuring out how can I get better treatment? Where can I go? And just somebody to listen, just kind of still continually seeking out people that will listen.
That's one thing that
So
looking back, I never gave up. And even though it
yeah,
took so long, like I never gave up. There were
right.
times when I would just say, you know what, screw it. I just don't care because I wasn't getting, I
Yeah,
felt like I was just like beating my head on the wall and I wasn't
yeah,
getting more. And I would tell myself, well, this must be just what it is. But then I would get sick of it and I would start over again. And
yeah.
so I think a big part of it too, as we're talking about this mental, emotional, physical side of it,
Hmm.
um, depression was huge for
Yeah.
me over the years. And I was told like, I mean, they would put me on medication. Looking back now, I didn't need that. I needed thyroid
Yeah.
medication. Like,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
if you go to mainstream doctors, they just want to
Right.
medicate you. I think depression was
Definitely.
huge.
Yeah.
It was a huge part of my life. One, because I didn't feel good. My
Right.
hormones are a wreck, but also, just the whole situation of realizing
Just being discouraged.
just
Yeah.
being
That
discouraged.
was
Like,
really me. I went through like a couple year period of just a huge piece of stress.
mhm,
Um, that really this was kind of towards the end of it where I realized, you know what, this is where my priorities lie during all of this. It just took me a little longer. Sometimes I'm a little hard headed, but going through that and then it finally ended, and it was like, whew, okay, I'm going to be better. Like everything's going to be better. And then I realized, oh no, I'm not better.
I'm not better.
Um, and so it was about the kind of maybe about a year ago that I kind of went through this where everything kind of finally ended. And I didn't realize how much my mood was affected. Like to the point that I was like, this is kind of scary
Hmm.
on where I am right now, mental wise.
Yep.
And um, realizing like at that point, it was just this huge turning point of this is not the life I want to live.
Yeah.
But being told, hey, you should probably be on medicine and realizing, you know what? I don't think so. And I completely disregarded myself for a period of time going through all of this. And finally was like, you know what? Nope. I'm not going to be on medicine for this. I've never needed this in my life.
Hmm.
I know there is something else going on. Come to find out, like my body had really shifted. I had been really stable on a dose of thyroid medication for really about 2 years,
Mhm.
shifted drastically. Um, and decided, you know what, I don't think I've actually checked that in a little while. Like,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, preach all these things, but this was the turning point in my life of I have to take care of myself,
Yes.
otherwise this is where we end up.
Mhm.
And and it was like, wow. I was actually the other way where my body had really shifted, and I actually was on way too much medicine at that point.
Mhm.
And even just being on a little bit too much, how much that drastically affected me. So, that's why looking at it in the way we do is so important. But um and then it just the adrenal side of it. I mean, there was just so many
Yeah.
factors that I just completely disregarded for myself. And I think we do that, right? Like we get in that rut, or we get,
Mhm.
we feel like that stressful situation that we're going through is just never going to end, and we eventually end up in this hole. And then I had to dig myself out of it. But yeah, I mean, mood was huge. And it's still something that I kind of see come back and forth at times where
Mhm.
that hormonal piece is so huge in affecting my mood. And so it's something that I think I'll probably constantly battle. I'm not, it's just the way my brain, I get brain fog. Like I get all of the brain symptoms when I'm like stressed out or whatever the case may be. So, but yeah, mood is huge. And I think in cases of like, I think I talk to women who maybe have like treatment resistant type depression or anxiety, and I'm like, maybe we should look at your thyroid. At least let's look at it. What is it going to hurt at this point if we look at it and try to get this more optimal for you? And while you may not ever get off medication completely, um, at least maybe you wouldn't need as much. At least maybe it would work a little bit better for you. I mean, there's just mood's huge, and I think it does get kind of pushed aside too,
Yeah.
quite frequently from a thyroid standpoint as well. Like it's like, nah, you just got a lot going on, or you
Yeah.
just have this tendency to be depressed, or whatever weird answer you might get. But man, I just tell patients like your thyroid is that foundational piece. It is
Yeah.
such a huge piece of the puzzle, and it's really, in my opinion, the starting point, and everything else just kind of flows from there. And we start to see what happens, what changes, what gets better. Where can you go from here,
I
right?
agree
So
100%. Like, yeah,
yeah,
that's what I've realized is this is really the foundation for everything in your body.
yeah,
It regulates so many things. And when
yeah,
that one thing is off, it sets everything else off. But yet a
and
lot of times when I went to doctors, they would want to fix the pieces out here.
yeah.
And I'm like, it's not the pieces.
I know. I think it's just so funny. And maybe it's funny. I don't know if it's ironic. I'm not really sure like what the right word is, but that this one thing that we know affects everything
Mhm.
is almost downplayed
It
in
is.
the medical world, as far as like, oh, it's not that. It's not
Right.
your thyroid
It's
at
not
all,
that.
right?
We'll test your TSH. It's not that. It's
Exactly,
fine. It's
exactly.
less than
Right.
10. You're
Yeah.
good.
It's so funny to me. I'm like, I could tell you all day long kind of where my thought goes, my head goes, and sometimes I have like some conspiracy stuff when it comes to this, but I'm like, this one thing
Mhm.
affects so much, but gets so downplayed in
Yeah.
medical world, in medical, in the community, and conventional medicine, traditional medicine type things. So it's just funny to me. I don't know.
It is to me too.
Um,
And I mean, it wasn't funny at first, but now I look at it
no.
and think, why do we
Yeah.
downplay this one thing so much? Because it
Yeah.
regulates everything in our body. It literally,
Yeah.
and I'm like you, man, I mean, I've lost 70 pounds this last year, which is
Yeah.
huge. Like, and I had pounded on all that weight. Like, and
Yeah.
there was really, I felt like nothing that I could do about it.
Right.
Everything that I tried didn't work, but it
Right.
affected, I mean, everything in my life, from my hair to my nails to my skin to, you know,
Sleep,
my
man, I mean,
mood.
that's the other thing. Like when my thyroid's been off in the past, I don't sleep. I'm like up
Yes.
all night long, just,
Hmm.
which makes things worse.
Makes it
It's
worse because you're
funny.
not.
There's really no extent to what when your thyroid is not functioning well to what can be affected. There's
Mhm.
no limit.
Yeah.
I mean, anything can be. When I was pregnant, I laugh because I lost my eyelashes with my first daughter, and I was like, is this a normal just
Interesting.
pregnancy thing? And then, going through that again, I'm like, no, that was a thyroid thing. Like that was 100% my thyroid. It was the weirdest symptom, but
Yeah.
there's like no extent to what you can be affected by your thyroid when it's off.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
It's
huge to get
huge.
better. Yeah.
I know one of the weird symptoms I had is I realized when we would go up into the higher elevations, I couldn't breathe. It
Yeah.
was the strangest thing. And, you go read traditional thyroid medication, symptoms, and none of that was ever in there.
No.
But that was one of the things that I noticed that went away the quickest is after I started getting treatment, and I still wasn't optimal, but I was way better than I'd been in
Yeah.
years. And we went up on the mountain and I was like, oh, I
I
can
can
breathe.
breathe.
Yeah, it was the strangest thing. Like,
Yeah.
and
Isn't it that funny, the things that I don't know, the little things that you I don't know if you take for granted, but you're like, I've struggled with this for so long that I just kind of felt like this was me.
I just thought
And
it
then it
was
goes away and you're like, oh my gosh, I can actually just go climb up a mountain and enjoy it
and
and
enjoy it. I
not
love
feel like
it
I'm
now.
gonna
Now I'm
keel
like,
over.
oh, yeah, that was fun. Like, well, and the first time
Yeah.
I really noticed it, I didn't realize I had gotten lightheaded when we had been like at 10,000 feet, but we actually
Yeah.
went to Peru and I didn't think I was going to make it through Peru. I mean, there were some
Yeah.
places that are 13,000, 14,000 feet. And I just
Yeah.
remember being so sick and I was beating myself up because if you weren't so heavy, maybe we wouldn't be here. If you weren't so fat, like
Yeah.
maybe this
I
wouldn't be a
know.
problem. Like, and it had nothing. I mean, that
No.
that contributed to it, I'm sure, but the real cause was my thyroid was so
Yeah.
off that I
And
couldn't breathe.
yeah.
Like,
And I think that's the other thing too that really changed my mindset was there's a lot of these things that are out of my actual control with
absolutely.
my thyroid. Like I was a college athlete. There are huge demands with college athletics for
Mhm.
sure, which I don't think helped me in the long run. But I knew how to act. Like I exercised, I ate well, and it was like 40 pounds just came on
Mhm.
out of nowhere, like within 2 months. So when I tell
Yeah.
patients, I'm like, I get that
Mhm.
20-pound weight gain in a month. Like I get it. 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 And
Mhm.
I think that's one thing that patients feel like they're all alone in with the weight gain. And I'm like, no, no, no. Like I promise you are not. It's a lot out of your control. And so many of these things are,
Yeah.
and I think that's kind of a societal thing too, to it kind of goes back to that perfection of
Um,
I guess I'm just not taking care of myself well, and it's my fault that I'm,
fault.
80 pounds overweight or whatever it is, and I don't think that it always is. I think there can be circumstances, but I don't truly think, especially in cases of thyroid, that is so far out of your control,
It is.
in so many ways. Like so many symptoms are, not just weight gain, but
Yeah,
so many symptoms are that, give yourself a little grace, right? Like
absolutely.
just,
That's the
give,
one thing that I've probably learned the most this last year and a half is that I needed to give myself
yeah,
grace this whole time. But I was judging myself so harshly because
yeah,
I wasn't like everybody else, and
yeah,
and I will never be like everybody else, and that's okay. But and
yeah,
I've had to learn to love myself more
yeah. I think
and be
that's truly the
gentle.
healing
Be
part of it,
gentle.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just you know, being kind of okay, not okay, but like accepting, hey, this is where I am,
Hmm.
and I'm going to appreciate my past because I probably learned a ton about it, about yourself through that, about
Hmm.
your ability to just keep going and pushing through anything, no matter how you felt, right?
Yep.
But I also just think learning how to be gentle with yourself, I think is such an important piece to all of this, no matter if you deal with health issues or not, but we're so hard on ourselves as women. And I just speak for because I am one. I don't know what men actually go through, right? I know they have tons of responsibility as
Yeah.
well, but we are very hard on ourselves. And I think there's a level of it just societally, culturally, I mean, that says that we should be, and we shouldn't be. And I think that's, you're right. That was a huge part of my healing process was learning how to be accepting of who I am. And I'm not going to say I'm perfect at it. It's definitely a work
Oh,
in progress. It's a daily thing.
it is a daily thing.
Um, I have a high expectation of myself to do good in life, and
Mhm.
but also learning how that if I don't have a great day, it's not the end of the world, and
It's
just,
okay.
what pushed that, right? So, yeah, being gentle, being graceful, just giving yourself a little bit of a pass to an extent, right? Like, not to where we don't want to get better, but just, hey, it's okay. We
Okay.
don't have to be perfect all the time. We don't have
Absolutely.
to live up to this constant expectation of that's what I should look like, that's what I should
Yeah.
feel like, that's what I should be like.
Mhm.
And what do I want to feel like? What do I want to be like? Who do I want to be is kind of the most important. And that's different for all of us. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah.
One final question,
Yeah.
because I hear this every day, not every day, but a lot of the times, because when I meet with women and we start talking about what's going on in their life and they start telling me all these things, and I'm like, have you looked into your thyroid? They all get scared
Yeah.
because they have been to the doctor so many times, have been told that everything is okay. And I talk to my clients and go, look, you know what? This is worth getting checked out. I promise you. Like,
Yeah.
but what would you tell women who have heard so many times that they're fine, but they just don't feel well? And no matter what they're doing, they're just not being heard. What would you say to them?
Um, well, I kind of joke, I'm like, look up Modern Thyroid Clinic because you're definitely going to get help there.
Absolutely. That's what I say too. But
I mean, honestly, that's where I turned, and but I think it's the hard thing is sifting out like the truth, right? Like, there's a lot on TikTok, there's a lot on social media. Um, I do think it is one of those things that you really just can't give up. Um, and there is a hope out there. I do think it takes finding the right person. And if you're not getting the answers, you know your body so much better than I actually do as a clinician. Like, intuitively there's something wrong, right? There's
yeah,
something that's not right. I know that I keep getting this answer, but intuitively we know our body really well.
yeah,
I think as women we're kind of gifted that in my opinion. And I think if you have that feeling that, hey, there is something else driving this, you know, seek out, like I said, Modern Thyroid, like McCall posts all kinds of
all
things on
times of
on
stuff.
her
Yeah.
Instagram to help you guys understand and learn, and just kind of not accepting no for an answer.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I mean, I think for me it was just, this is not what I want for my life. There's got to be a better way, where just finding a way to figure out where to go. And there are people out there that can help. I think um, it does take a different perspective when it comes to thyroid issues. It really does. And if you're getting somewhere where people are like just telling you the same thing, seek out somebody else who would at least be willing to. That was one of the things when I was in the primary care world. I was like, you know what? I don't know all about this thyroid thing. I know I live it. I'm learning about it. I'm trying to learn it so I can help you guys, but I'm at least willing to look, right? At
Really.
least willing to look. And I think it just takes finding somebody that's willing to look. And that may mean on the other side of the country, right? Like, there
Mhm.
are people out there that want to help you, that will look at it in a different perspective. I think Modern Thyroid honestly does it the best way.
I agree. I
But
couldn't
I'm a
agree
little
more.
biased, right? I'm a little biased. But also, I have lived through that treatment regimen that we went, that I got from Modern Thyroid. So, um, it's, I don't know if that even answers your question, but
It
I'm like,
does. It perfectly
just
does.
keep
Yeah.
keep going. And I also think, like, if you are married, or if you have whatever the case may be, just having that constant conversation with your spouse of they want to help you too.
Yeah.
And can't tell you how many women I actually have that they're like, my husband found this, or,
Mhm.
whoever, my mom, whoever found this for me, because I was just at my wit's end and so discouraged and so ready to just give up, that they actually turned me on to this. And
Yeah.
just maybe having that constant conversation of, I just don't know where to go, and maybe they can help you, leaning on the ones around you, I think is also really important, because they're going to be able to help you through this, and they may be able to find you the answer to somebody to go
Right.
to. So, um, that's just another big thing that I see that happens with so many of my patients is they're like, my mom found this, my daughter, whoever.
Yeah.
And it's always really cool to me. And then you just start to see the family trickle in, because they're like, I think I have this too. And so it's
Mhm.
just really cool. And I just don't think you should give up,
No.
um, because there are people out there that want to help.
Well, you've got my whole family pretty much. So,
Well,
I, I
they're
can't
wonderful.
imagine doing it and I'm grateful that I found you because my kids don't have to do what I've been through for the
Yeah.
last all
Yeah.
these years.
I mean,
So,
I will screen my daughters um, early on. Early on.
absolutely, because we all deserve to feel good and we all
Yeah.
deserve that.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you so much being here today.
You're
And
welcome.
we could go on. There's so many different
We
layers. We need to
could.
do this again because there's so many layers to thyroid care. We could
Yes.
talk to so many things. We could talk about the weight loss part of it. We could talk, there's just so many.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I
I
loved
mean,
having this
sure.
conversation with you, and I thank you for being here. I know you are a busy, busy lady, but I appreciate you being here so much, and I appreciate all you've done for
Yeah.
me. And so, thank you for being here today.
I appreciate you having me. This was so much fun. This is honestly a little bit out of my norm. Like I said, I'm such an introvert that these things used to make me so nervous, but I think it's just learning about myself and learning that, you know what? Sometimes you just got to put yourself out there. And
Absolutely.
this is so important to me, and so important to, it really has actually become just very important to my family. Like my husband, he goes and tells everybody too, get your thyroid checked. And just, you never know who, just telling one, like who it might reach.
Yeah.
And so this is just I mean, passionate about this, want people to get the help they need, because I don't want them to feel like I did ever, or
No,
hear what I did. So
no,
I'm happy to do as many of these as you want.
absolutely.
And just get that word out, and I've enjoyed having you as my patient, and I, it's become one of those things where it's no longer just patient clinician relationship. Like I feel like I could talk to you about anything,
Yeah.
outside of just medical stuff, which is it's just the beauty of healthcare, in my opinion.
Mhm.
But I also think it's the beauty of being able to actually have time with patients. Like you actually get
Absolutely.
to know them. And I wouldn't be able to get to know you if I didn't actually have the time to do that. So,
Well,
uh,
that's the other thing I love about Modern Thyroid Clinic is
yeah, you
nobody
get
is
that
going to
first
listen to you.
hour. Yeah,
Yeah, for an hour. Like nobody's going to talk to you for 45 minutes in any doctor's
yeah,
office. Like, yeah.
no. And
So,
sometimes, like, I've had such healing experiences with patients where maybe we didn't even talk, we talked a little bit about their medical stuff, but they just got to talk to me about what's going on in their life.
yep.
And okay, how can we help you through that, right? Like so much
How can I
is
support you?
can happen when you just talk
Yeah,
and you actually have the time
absolutely.
to talk. So,
Absolutely.
but
Totally.
yeah, thank you for having me, and it's been such a wonderful journey helping you. You've done all the work. I just kind of helped get it going, but you've done all the work, and I could just see it like in your face from the first time I saw you to now, just the brightness,
Mhm.
the joy. I mean, um to that, there's no extent to what feeling good does either.
Yeah,
And so I it's been such a special journey, to be able to just help you through it. And like I said, it's all you. I'm just kind of here to
no.
give you some of the resources.
I
So
don't think it's all me. It takes a group effort. It
it
really does.
does,
It
but
takes because
you,
I've tried to do it on my own and
yeah,
I'm like you, like there
you've
was
put in the work
no,
though. So,
but
and I think
I
that's
was so
because
grateful. I think about it every day because I was out walking my dogs this morning and every day I'm like, I am so grateful to be able to go walk and it's
I
not
know.
heavy. I feel good. I want to do it. I'm excited to
Yeah.
do it. Like, and that has never been something that has
Yeah.
been in my, not for many, many years. So
And honestly,
every day is a
it
gift.
just, I bet, I think a few tweaks in medication can get you there.
Oh,
Um,
yes,
and then you just continue to build from there,
you
right?
do.
Like it's
Absolutely.
amazing how just some minor tweaks and then you just build off of that as you continue to feel better until you can continue to see like what your priorities are and
Yeah,
changing. And so it's been a
absolutely.
wonderful opportunity helping you and just being a part of your journey. And thank you for entrusting family members with me. I
We're not going
appreciate
anywhere else. We're stuck with this. So,
it. but, but yeah, so anyway,
all right. Well, thank you so much, Hillary. I
you're
appreciate all you've
welcome.
done for me and I appreciate your time today. So, thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, for
Yes,
listening to us today. And we will see you all again very soon, I'm
yes,
sure. So,
yes.
all right. Bye bye for now. I sincerely hope you enjoyed today's episode. I love connecting with my people. So if you would like to get in touch with me, you can email me at ginastrole@ginastrole.com. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram and on YouTube as Gina Strole Intuitive Healing. And of course, if you have any interest in anything that we talked about today, all of my stuff is available on my website at ginastrole.com. And again, thank you for joining me, and I can't wait for us to connect up again. Have a great day.